please go ahead. This is the June 12th, 2019 meeting of the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. It is 12:30. We are in room 206 of Town Hall. I guess first for the record, we have two visitors today that we're happy to have. They are, what is your official title?
Sustainable CT Fellows. Sustainable
CT Fellows. Boy, they made it sound good, didn't they? Otherwise known as summer interns with Sustainable CT, here to give us advice, counsel, and support on our efforts to fill out our Sustainable CT application. Please introduce yourselves for Terry and the viewing public.
My name is Kendra. Thank you for having me.
Kendra what?
Kendra Beaver.
And I'm Chadwick Schroeder.
Kendra is a rising senior at Dickinson College, majoring in environmental science with a minor in political science.
Oh.
And Chadwick is an upcoming junior at UConn, double majoring in political science and environmental sciences.
Wow, this is like right up your alley.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
perfect.
It's really
Wow,
So
they-
welcome
They didn't
to-
just send just anyone. This is like,
So welcome to
this is
Sustainable CT,
fantastic.
the Western CT Council of Governments, which is apparently where you are based out of, and to our Sustainable CT team.
Item 1 on the agenda is approve the past minutes. Thank you, Terry, for the May 8th draft. Ms. Bain has dutifully provided you with some edits there in red, which I am sure you'll probably agree to, but if you have any questions, ask them now. Cliff, you can sit with us. We've got chairs. We have a very big table here.
Come on in.
Well, Laura's going to be here. We could congratulate her for the plastic bag.
Oh, yes, that was a
ordinance. Yeah.
nice start.
You good, Terry?
Has everybody else seen these?
No, I just marked them up at home.
I trust Carolyn and I trust you.
There were, there were just a couple things I didn't know what they were.
If everyone else is comfortable that there is nothing of substance in the change, I'm okay with the corrections as noted.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So it's up to you guys to make the motion.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with Carolyn's
Second.
changes.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motions are passed, and Terry will, as always, provide final copy to the town clerk. So we're complying with our FOIA requirements. All right, second item on the agenda. We've moved it up to the top, where it will probably remain for some time, which is our points strategy and application work for Sustainable CT. Do you want to go?
I would like to start because there are a couple of announcements relative to
Okay.
items coming up very quickly, and then we can get right into how we approach getting this application done between now and August 30th, I believe. So the first announcement, which you weren't here, and I passed around, Craig wrote an article on Darien Going Solar, which was in the Darien Neighbors publication, if anybody wants to look for that or if you get that at home. There are several upcoming events, one of which I'm not sure anybody has signed up for, but there's a Sustainable CT meeting in Stamford this Friday, 10 to 1 at the Carousel, which is municipal action success stories in sustainable CT housing and transportation. Basically, folks that have completed and been certified will be explaining some of their process of certification and the actions that they took. And there is you can register via the links through Sustainable CT if you can attend that meeting. There is also, and this we may take advantage of, I don't know if this first date makes any sense for anybody, we may not be ready, but there are Sustainable CT applicant Q&A periods that will be taking place throughout the state in June and July. The first one is with our council, the Western Council of Government in Sandy Hook, on June 18th from 9:30 to 3:30. If anybody is available, you can contact me directly and we could see if it made sense to, and it's by appointment, so you would make an appointment and you would have one-on-one time to have your questions answered. If there's any follow-on today's meeting and it's time enough to go, I'd be happy to try and go if somebody wanted to attend with me.
What is, who is, give me a
It would be
little-
with the fellows or the Sustainable CT team.
It's both, yes.
It's an opportunity to sit down and look at your application and have questions about filling it out. There will be others throughout the month of June and July, and those can be listed. They're all on the website also, but the first one is in our backyard, basically. There are two webinars. I just want you to know, again, they're on the website. One about smart commuting on June 27 from 1 to 2. And I believe that one counts for points. And there's a webinar on regional resilience planning of public drinking water on 6/28 from 10 to 11. And it wasn't noted whether that one counted for points. So if anyone on the TV or in the room or public in the town that attends those, we would want to keep track. So that's it. And the last thing is to let you know, it's great to meet you. Christine and I had the opportunity to meet with an equity coach, Christina Smith, who's the executive director of Groundwork Bridgeport. She met with us to talk about the 9.1 and what it means to fill out that and how that all fits into the overall Sustainable CT. We included, Allie wasn't able to attend from Human Services, but one of her assistants, Diane Barston, joined. And the net of it was we had lots of productive conversation. The net of it is they use the word equity, but in reality, the process is really about equity, diversity, and what made sense to us was inclusion. And the reason to state that at the beginning of this meeting now is that in order to get that 9.1, in order to be certified, what the real effort is to try and view some public project through the lens of including all citizens in your community. So that if it's senior citizens or people who don't drive or people who are under the poverty line or whatever it might be, that's something that we provide. We look at it through the lens of who can't access that service and what we could do to make that program or service available to everybody in the community. So she gave us a little bit of a broader idea beyond the word equity, and the word inclusion seemed to make sense. Would you agree to most everybody in the room as a lens to look at food composting or access to other services throughout the community? And that will help us, I think, in finding a way to submit an application for 9.1. Which leads us into submitting 9.1 and coming up with the strategy of where we think we already have points and what we might be missing. And I know Craig you have the original
I have
list,
a bunch
which
of
I
different lists.
photocopied and left on my printer at home to have
Oh,
copies for everybody.
helpful.
So I'm going to rely on you for that list of items,
Yeah.
and we can work from there.
I've generated a few lists, and I also have the website up to kind of talk about it.
Okay, and I'm going to give everybody, if it doesn't have a copy of all the items, just on that front list.
So I think while our fellows are here, and to have them inform us how they can help us complete tasks, I'm going to use maybe an example or two of tasks that we're trying to complete, and maybe you can tell us how you can support us, and then we can then amplify that to other tasks. So for example number one, this is a task I think we're near completing. And example number one is 7.5, municipal waste reduction, MSW annual reports. So we have on the website, so first thing it asks for is oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. What is 7.5 called? Let me tell you. It's called Report Materials Management Data and Reduced Waste. So that's better. So, so first thing is you request a certain number of points. And on this item, I think I was requesting 25 points, and there's a reason for that when we get down. So my summary was 7.5.1, and so this is now input into our application already on the Sustainable CT website. It's under my logon, and I think a number of commission members have logons now. So I say I think I get 5 points for 7.5.1 because Darian Ostafine is the Assistant Director of Public Works. This is his contact information, and he is the person responsible for collecting data and reporting it to the DEP. What did I say? Oh, note to ourselves, we need to get the last 3 years of data on the DPW website. That has to do with, not only does he have to report it to the DEP, but then he has to make it available to the public as well. And then I think we get on 7.5.2, which is actually reducing waste over time, I believe we qualify for 20 points. So I say that on the application. I say, as evidenced by the 4 CTDEP reporting forms attached, the town of Darien has reduced municipal solid waste by 22.4% when comparing fiscal year 2015 to fiscal year 2018. So that's the first thing that you fill out on the website, which is, this is the points we're saying we qualify for and why. And then it says submit supporting documents. So I've uploaded, that was what I read before, a PDF of the supporting documents, which are the 5 I have them here, hard copy, but which are the 5 memos that Darren gave to me. Top line of each memo is total quantity of MSW. So if you read that top line in 2014 and 2018, you can see the 20% reduction. So I uploaded that PDF file, and I have given that PDF file an intuitive name. So the name of the PDF file is 7.5 Municipal Waste Reduction MSW Annual Reports. And then they want you to give a little description of why did you give us those documents and where can we find the information we need on those documents. So I provided the comment, the annual reports, the name of the document, fiscal year 2015 municipal solid waste total is on page 1, item 1. Fiscal year 2018 municipal solid waste total is on page 4, item 1. So I tell them exactly where to go for the information so that whoever is reviewing these applications can independently confirm that in fact we deserve the 20 points that we're asking for under that item number. And then who did we partner with? The Assistant Director of Public Works. And that's it. So that's how I have completed that task item. Would you suggest that I did it right? I guess is the first question. You guys have been trained, I haven't.
My first comments are that your labeling and explanations are perfect. That's what we're looking for regarding organization and making it really easy for those of the staff members and the other volunteers who look through all these applications to have a clear idea of exactly where to go in these documents. So I would say keep up the work regarding that. My notes, when I was looking through it, the evidence for that reduction of waste was clear. We don't have the authority to guarantee that you will get those points, but from my understanding of the application and the requirements, it seems that you did fulfill that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as well. The way you laid out the 7.5.1 is exactly how they need to be laid out because it shows to the reviewer exactly which pieces you're applying for because certain actions have different parts that you may not be applying for. And then the same thing with the supporting documents. You labeled it perfectly well and it makes it very clear to the reader exactly where to find the information necessary. I'd say this is a perfect submission.
Okay. So that's kind of a guidepost for how we are trying to do it. I started off with a good place, you know.
How come only 20 points
We had a 20% reduction in waste.
based on the percentage?
Yep.
So if in fact, just to merge what I had been told and what they're saying and what you did is a lot of this has to do, assuming we have an action that we can get points for, getting the points requires that it be put into the system in a very specific way. Is
Yes.
that
Yes.
correct?
The website is intuitive, and the website tells you what it wants in each box, but I think where we're generally lacking is that we all have good ideas. We all know we've done a lot of stuff in the last 5 years, and we have some of the backup, right? So lacking point number one is accumulating all of the backup. But then it is going through and finding that page 4, line item 1, in the document that says, here's the proof that we in fact did what we were saying we're going to do, and then having someone sit in front of the computer and take that documentation, having researched exactly the points in the document that are necessary, and get it up there in a fashion like this. So the reality is we've done a lot. It's trying to collect all the data on what we've done, translating it and inputting it into the program that is the struggle. And we're all volunteers, so
Right.
which is yet another part of the struggle.
Yes.
So where do you guys fit in that? Are you, do you do research? Do you help translate the data? Can you upload it, or do we have to upload it? Where do you guys fit in what you are able to do for us?
We can do all of that.
Okay.
We've done research on what you've submitted, and we've also looked at almost all the other action points and looked for things that Darian's already done
Great.
that could work. So we have some suggestions for how to gain more points, and some that you already have, you just didn't know, or maybe you just haven't gotten to
Okay,
yet.
so why don't you start from the top?
Wow, I'm gonna fall
They
off
came
my chair.
prepared.
Okay, and it'll
So-
be interesting to hear what you have to say, because we have a
Comparing
list.
to what we think, yeah, yeah.
Greg's
Okay.
list with
yeah.
all the handwritten notes was an initial list of places to go
And this was
for.
just
Okay.
my stuff, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So one thing that I was really excited about, because there are things that you've already done that could fulfill points, is 7.1, hold a sustainability event.
Yes.
Farmers markets count for sustainability events, and
Oh.
from what I can tell online, you guys have a weekly farmers market.
We do,
And each day, so each farmers market will count as one event.
okay.
So one event gets you 5 points, between 5 and 10 gets you 10 points, and more than 10 gets you 15.
Okay. What other things would count as sustainability
so
events?
other
We've had
things-
educational seminars at the library, I know.
You could host a film festival. You also, I believe, had an Earth Day event on June 8th, a cemetery cleanup day.
Yes.
That would count.
I have pictures of that. Does that help?
Yes,
That
I'm
would
not.
be great.
That would definitely work. I'm not as sure if that would fulfill all the submission requirements, but it would for sure
So
contribute.
proof that you let people know there was going to be a cemetery day, that you did in fact have a cemetery day, and when you had it and what you did.
Yeah.
And so similarly, like we've done beach,
Townwide cleanup.
we did townwide cleanup, we did a beach cleanup.
Yeah.
Those are all things that I found in like meeting minutes you guys had like talked about, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Those can be like showing documentation of these things were held,
Yeah.
they're officially being reported. And we've also found that if you try to collect all these documents, like the pictures and images, in folders on like a shared drive that all of you would have access to, it might be helpful too, because at any point in the day,
Yeah.
each one of you would be able to add things to a certain folder for, say, action 7.1, and then you'll
Yeah.
be able to see all the different documents in those collective places.
So
Does
what-
anybody have a shared, a
I have a,
Dropbox or
well, I
a
have a
Google
one,
Doc or?
I have a OneDrive account that that I've already started doing that with, so I could share the OneDrive folders with everybody. Unless people are less comfortable with OneDrive and more comfortable with Google Docs, I suppose I could set that up too.
I'm not comfortable with any, so you can.
Google Docs is very simple.
Mhm.
It's exceptionally simple, and it's very safe as long as the administrator, and I'm sure you know how to set up Google Docs for a group.
Again, I usually work with Microsoft products, so I'm usually in OneDrive, but.
I can explain that a little if you guys
Well,
want.
I can set up the Google Drive doc.
Okay.
I've got one set up, so that's easy. Everybody basically gets invited to join, and you have the ability to input data. And I would set it up so that nobody has the ability to change any data. I mean, there are all sorts of administrative tasks, but the most effective is to not let anybody change anything. They can comment, but they can't change. That's the easiest way to set it up.
And also from looking at the submission requirements for Hold a Sustainability event, there's actually a template That, I believe, is provided on the website, where you just fill out how many participants there were, the date of the event, the description of the event. It's almost an Excel sheet. So I don't even know if actually you need those photos. I think you might just need to list the details in that template.
My experience in the real world is that one photograph is not worth 1,000 words. It's worth 10 million words, because people who have to slog through documents
Yeah.
have a tendency to be like the rest of us and say, oh, there's a picture that had the event. Good.
May
But-
I, staying on
Well,
seven.
I think, again, going by the example, if there's anything, if it got any press coverage, or if there's a website you can link to with proof of the press coverage, that can help
Can we
bolster.
staying on that, on 7.1 sustainability event? We just, the Darien Land Trust and the Watershed Commission held a session on Long Island Sound.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Right.
It was.
Yeah, we
it
talked
was
about the last time.
coastal. It was coastal, it was
Yeah.
a coastal
Was
quality.
it coastal sea level rise?
Yeah.
It was related to that, and it was
Resiliency.
coastal resiliency,
Oh, okay.
and it was Save the Sound, and it was Darien Land Trust,
And
and
it
it
was
was
hosted
at
at
the
the library,
Darien
which is a
Library, and it
municipal
was
building.
recorded on our public television.
Oh, okay.
And that was held, I believe, in May. And I'm confusing because I went to one in Rowayton, and then we also had the Blue Plan, so I went to 3 in the
Yeah.
course of about 2
So
weeks, so
let
my
me ask
brain
a couple of
is
questions.
mixing. But is
So-
that an event? Would that be an event?
I believe so. It was public.
It was
open
public,
to the public.
open to the public.
Yes, I think
70,
so.
80 people at the library at
Mhm.
least.
Yeah, I think so for sure.
So you said if we host over 10, that's 15 points?
Yes.
Okay. So, again, what we need then, so here's a potential where we could get 15 points, but it takes somebody identifying 10 events, and we can have a farmer's market every week as one of them, which is fantastic. But collecting some proof, a website link, a scan of a invitation or document, agenda, that photo, that event actually happened, and be able to complete the template, and then have the template either for now put it on our Google Doc page, which Terry is going to generate, or go directly to the website and upload it there. So there's our stick point. So like, who's the person that's gonna say, I'm gonna be in charge of trying to get us these 15 points?
For this one, I will say that,
Okay.
especially since I know the coastal one.
Some of the events and-
Also,
Yeah.
so, and I think what it's gonna have to be is everybody at the table.
Oh,
Think of some.
for-
throw ideas at
Right,
Kathy.
and-
Oh, don't forget
no,
this one,
Yeah, if you know
here's some
about it, to
information.
say, did you check this event? And then I would take that, and then I would use you folks, if you've already taken notes, and you can email them to me, and I can try to upload. If I can't, I'm gonna come back to you and say, how do I fill out this template? That was what I would want. Then for some other event, if it's 8.9 or whatever, someone else is gonna have to be the point person to
Right.
do it. I would think that would be
All right, so that's 7.1.
7.1.
You're gonna be the lead
Responsibility for
on
7.1.
7.1.
So.
In
so I
getting
think-
us 15 points.
Yep.
Of
So I think
sustainable
here's an
events.
easy start. There is actually a website, www.darienfarmersmarket.com,
Yep.
that says opening day,
Yep.
June 5th. It doesn't give the closing.
That's probably how you found it.
Yeah.
So again, we
Okay,
could, so we
I
could
can-
spend the next hour talking about
We
7.1
don't-
and these
yeah.
15 points, or we could say, great example, we have a leader.
Right.
Let's move on to the next one.
So,
as a matter of sort of philosophy here, it sounds to me like we've got more than enough events to qualify for this.
Yes.
Is there any advantage in trying to document as many as possible, or do we just go for what we need to get the points?
It's a good point.
If you become if you happen to document more than you need, I would keep those in mind. They may qualify you
For
for points
something
for
else.
Yes,
for another
there-
action.
There's other
Overshoot the
actions.
target a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
other actions that require you to hold a specific event. Like I know there's one about watershed education.
Right.
So one of those may have qualified for another action
Yeah.
that you may not have thought in the first place.
Yeah, especially if it was an educational event.
Cultural stuff that might relate
Yeah.
back to cemeteries and
Yeah,
things like that.
that's
yeah.
true. Mhm.
One other thing too I found, if you go through the actions as a group and like go over exactly what the guidelines say, sometimes people just like have thoughts in the back of their head of like, oh, I heard about this one thing that happened. They might be able to think of something for that action that like one person just looking over the application might not think of.
Yeah, crowdsourcing is better, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and you had made the book, and it does require going down to this is 7.1, and reading the details, you need to read every
Yes.
detail, is what I think you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
To say to
Don't
get 5
don't just
points,
look at
10
the
points.
headline and say, oh, we've done something
We've
like
done
that.
something,
Look
because
at
you need to
how you
submit
have to do it
information
and the
on
information
the
you need.
template.
Yep.
And
Yep.
submit it on the template.
Right.
Yep.
So there's very specific things that have to be done, so I could
So what else
see
did you
working
find?
through this for this event.
Great.
You looked at 7.1, are there other events, other areas that, as you looked at us,
Well,
you
yeah, I want to
saw?
move past 7.1.
Yeah,
if
other-
you think
that's what I
we've
mean,
covered
yeah,
other
7.1.
areas
wanna-
beyond
So
7.1.
I looked through the first about 3 sections.
Mhm.
So the first, like 1.1, you guys don't have any brownfields
That's
in
correct.
Darien, correct?
That's
Correct.
correct.
I was looking at 1.2. It says implement sustainable planning and purchasing. It basically boils down to buying environmentally conscious goods. So
We-
examining
so we've-
how much
yeah.
they cost while still looking for environmentally safe
We've
ones.
talked about that one with our town administrator. It's not being done yet, but we've planted the seed
Great.
with her to consider for the future.
That's great. So some of these actions only require like a town resolution to be passed.
Mhm.
So that could be like a great way to get like a few points at each of these different actions and fill categories.
You
Yeah.
get the ball rolling on a lot of them.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that one is, again, in order for, that resolution's not going to pass before August, period, right? So some of the stuff, we did have a department head meeting with the town administrator, with the first selectman, and with some of the key department heads, including Ed, to talk about not only where's the low-hanging fruit where we can get points now, but also talk about what's the reasonable stuff that we should be considering for next year or the year after, the future. So we did kind of go over some of that stuff. I didn't see it as a target point opportunity now.
Another program I thought to look into for the future was 1.6. That's the program through the CP.
So we are a CPACE member,
Oh, that's awesome.
and so we need to figure out how to recover that data.
The RTM has, through the RT, that was approved by the RTM, I believe.
Okay, so
So
we-
if we went back and found the minutes from the RTM meeting where
Yes.
that was approved.
That would be perfect.
And then I have a list directly from the Green Bank of all of our CPACE projects. That's on my OneDrive right
Yeah,
now.
so
Great.
that's a perfect one too, because the first part of that action is just completing a resolution for joining the program.
So I think we've done that. is
Yeah,
what
and
we're
then
saying.
all the way at the bottom, you get more and more points for every completed action, or like if you have like completed buildings that work through this program.
Yes.
You get points for that, and you also get ones for future projects that you have planned if you submit the plans for them.
So I have the data on that one, and I can upload it, but what I'm missing is
The
the
minutes?
minutes from the RTM. Is that something you guys can help research and find, or should
I
we have
can
Carolyn
try
do
to
that?
research and find it. Do you know what meeting?
No,
I should look
it was
at
years
the-
ago.
It was a couple years ago.
And
yeah.
that's something I
We would
think
literally be
we
picking,
should know.
picking and hunting.
There's a certain look back period that qualifies,
Yes.
and it varies for every single
Oh,
sub
Yes.
action.
Okay.
And that's specified also on the website
Yes.
very clearly.
Credit
but
for
just
past action.
always keep an idea of if that will fulfill.
Okay.
Points will be
It looks
earned for
like-
resolutions and legal agreements regardless of when they were adopted.
Great.
So CPACE is not a look-back problem.
Well, then for 1.6.2,
Oh, yeah.
it's 1 year prior, and then for
Which is
0.3
educational
3 years
efforts.
prior.
And then buildings that actually got completed,
Mhm.
there's a 3-year look back. Okay, so we have buildings that were completed. Did they give me a date on these? They didn't give me a date. That's unfortunate.
Which point are we on?
Oh, yeah, they did.
1.6.
Yeah, no, all
1.6.
five projects at the Green Bank,
0.3, 1.6.3.
all 5 projects that the Green Bank gave me were within the last 5 years, or the last 3 years. So these
Great.
would all qualify for
Yeah,
points.
that is great. Another.
So, I
action-
mean, just on that one, so who's going to be searching for that resolution? And then I will be lead on 1.6 in terms of getting the data up.
I can definitely look for the resolution.
You know how it,
Okay.
the easier way to find it would be to go back the last few years and look at the agenda for the RTM, and then once you see it on the agenda, the resolution, then you'll be able to find it in the minutes.
That's perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Great.
And
All
I
right, what
want to
else?
say it was
Okay.
maybe 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago.
It would have been probably before any of these projects, because
Oh, right,
they
of
might have
course.
required it.
Yeah.
So it would have been before November 2017, I would think.
That sounded right.
Which committee did you say passed it?
The representative town meeting, the RTM,
Okay.
which is
Thank
listed
you.
under town government on the website.
Perfect.
Another that you could, I think, do fairly easily is 7.3, train municipal commissions. It's essentially sending 4 or more members of municipal commissions to a training session. And Sustainable CT is actually hosting many equity training sessions that are open to anyone. And that session would qualify for these points.
So, yeah, I mean, this is one I put Jeremy Ginsburg's name on. He's the town planner.
Okay.
What's the look-back period on this one?
24, credit for past action. This action must be completed within 24 months prior to application submission. Potential, let me see. It
So
says
24 months.
Send at least one commissioner from both your inland wetlands and planning and zoning commissions, as well as 2 commissioners from other active commissions of your choice to an equity training session. I attended an equity training session. I'm a commissioner, or a committee member.
And I attended one under the Small Towns of Connecticut.
Well, but it's not just an equity training sessions, or another training session that is relevant to their commission.
Right.
So, and the reason I put Jeremy's name here is he knows the people on his commissions
Correct.
and where they've gone to do what. I haven't followed up with Jeremy on this, but I can. I mean, for instance, when we did, this was a year and a half ago, this is getting close to the 24-month period, but when we did the sustainability event at Grace Farms, it wasn't actually commission members, it was
Yeah.
his staff. He sent like 3 members of his staff to that, so it wasn't the commission members themselves.
And I went.
And you were there. I was there. Okay, so I will follow up with Jeremy on that to see if he's got information that would help us for those points. So that was 7.
Is this considered a commission?
We're a
Is that-
committee, I bet.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
question. We are an advisory committee created by the Board of Selectmen. We are not a defined board or commission in town ordinance. Do we can?
I will look into that. I will look into
And how would
Great
that compare to the
question.
wetlands committee? Because we
Right.
have
The
all.
Wetlands Agency is by town
I don't know
ordinance.
now.
Wetlands is by
Yeah.
town ordinance, we are not.
P&Z is.
P&Z is by town
Yeah.
ordinance,
Yeah.
Parks, the Parks and Rec.
Sewer Commission is,
Sewer
or,
commission.
I mean, there's 20 different
Right, so some.
bona fide commissions
Bona
other
fide,
than
other
the
than us.
advisory.
So even
there's
if,
a
but
lot.
if we are a committee member on something relative to this, it would, yeah,
Okay.
be an interesting. Okay, and I will tell you relative to this, I based it, the library thing, the wetlands person wanted to sit down and I have
Rich
not
Jacobson.
I was gonna say, I need to know his name.
Yeah, Rich Jacobson.
I will contact Rich because I told him I would at the library.
Yeah. Yeah, he could help with potentially, yeah.
Because his commission is
Yep.
on this
And we've
page.
talked to him. So beyond 7.3?
Under
Yeah.
2, which is well stewarded land and natural resources, 2.11 talks about holding an event and getting citizens to take the River Smart Pledge. I looked at the pledge, it's super simple, and it's basically just asking citizens to sign a petition. And you could do this at like a tabling event outside like grocery stores or some kind of town event. And I thought that would be a pretty easy thing to get points in that section.
Which number was that?
Yeah, I agree. I
2.1.1, it's like the third
yeah,
piece.
sponsor or host a program or educate citizens and business owners in your community about the value of watersheds. So that's definitely, we had originally put that in Laura's lap to look into. And she originally reached out to Aquarian to see if they had some canned stuff that would help with. Again, I agree that that is a super easy thing to do to get more points. But again, I think the general focus of, at least where I've been at this point, is let's at least catalog the stuff we have done
Yeah.
and try to make sure that's all there. And then, next year, it's easy to
The
say, oh, what are the 12 things we
Yeah.
should do now in the next 12 months? And, there's one of them. So that's a good idea.
Now, let me ask though, if in fact the Darien Nature Center or the citizens of Gorham's Pond, or I'm trying to think of the
If there was
kinds of
another
groups
group
Yeah.
that
that
did
have
this.
done
That did
something
something
this
Yeah.
year.
It doesn't have to be us.
The
They-
town just has to be involved in some way.
And we've been told that would include if
We advertise it, if
Yeah.
it's on
Provided
if it's using our
property,
facilities.
yeah.
if-
The
yeah.
Darien Nature Center is on property that we own.
Yeah, so
Right.
any event that
The
they.
library, we
Yeah.
donate to, the TV station often mentions
Yeah.
them. So the question is, and I don't know if there's a way to find out if there's been a, watershed education.
Well, so again,
That we could take the points for.
Here's why I'm gonna put my chairman hat back on. We need someone to stand up and say, 2.1, I'm going to be the leader on 2.1. I'll call the Nature Center and see if they've ever done anything like this, or
That's
see
what-
if they're willing to do something like this,
that's where I was
right?
getting
So,
to. Is that something someone could look
Because
into?
if people at this table, we already are underwater, so to
Yes.
speak, on trying to get the stuff we know we've done. So I don't want
Reach out
to,
to Laura.
certainly, she was the one
Yeah, I'll
put
touch
on
base
that.
with her.
Okay, why don't you talk to Laura, see
So,
if.
before we do that, the panel discussion on sea level rise, which has already been held, it was held on April 4th, it's documented, and the points that were covered were the ramification of sea level rise, coastal erosion, property value decline, loss of coastal habitats, and potential loss of.
So that's a home run. It's a sustainability event. It was hosted by us at the library. It was advertised, it occurred.
And I'm thinking, as they pointed out earlier,
Yeah.
rather than posting it under 7.1.
Oh, does it?
Post it under 2.1.
Well, I think part of the event has to be getting people to pledge to the River Smart pledge.
So you have to sign up.
And
Yeah.
if that
That's-
wasn't a
that's
part
an
of that
essential
event,
component.
that is the essential
Okay.
component,
Okay.
yes.
Can something
Christine.
qualify under two different categories
No.
at the same time?
When you talk to,
Most of
Laura?
So,
Yeah,
yes, it
sometimes.
depends
Send her
on some of
this.
them. Some of them
Yes.
have
Or
a
review
specific.
it with her, right? 'Cause
bullet
it's not
point that
just
says,
about, like,
if you completed
I'll read the
this other
headline and
action,
think we're
this
doing
one
something
doesn't
kind of
count.
like that.
But it's very
like, what do
few.
you have to do?
Sometimes it can't double
We
count,
really gotta
and they'll
focus
say it
people
on the
on-
website.
on that.
I mean, it's on the website, you just go to the action item.
Another one that I noticed you would already get points for is 7.8.2, choose a target sector to implement a food scraps recovery program.
We did it, nailed it.
Yeah. From my understanding, you have an awesome
7.8.2?
composting organization.
Yes, we applied for a grant, we received the grant, we launched the program in the fall. We are continuing to, we spent the grant, we are continuing to run the program. And in fact, this past Saturday, we had a free compost pickup as
Fantastic.
a celebration of our successful program start.
Great.
So
That's 10
that,
points.
so you are responsible for this category.
Yes.
You are the one that is responsible for, and it's 7.8,
That is 7.8.2.
7.8.2.
So,
The other,
you have the data on what, you have all the data and the links to the advertising and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
And pictures.
The one thing about that one is part of the requirement is that the people involved should have a meeting with municipal or district health department and just partner with them and have a discussion about the connections between the composting system or the food scraps system and the health
Okay.
department.
so we have to have a meeting with them.
I did have an informal meeting, does that count?
Do you have
If you have documents from it, we could look
I-
into
I
it.
don't have documents. I went in there to talk to him about something related, but then we did get into the whole.
So what if this, what if you touch base with David again one more time with this specific task item in mind, saying, you know, look, we're trying to get these points and this is what it says. And then is it possible that a follow-up email between the two of
Yeah,
them
that's what
is
I-
enough to say we had a meeting?
It could be, yeah. Did you talk about public health at all? That's, I think, the main purpose of this
Yeah.
point.
Well, public health in the sense that we talked about the location of the bins and the frequency of how they're emptied, or when they're emptied.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's.
I guess, is there a concern with?
What is the food scrapper?
Vectors, we talked
Yes.
about keeping vectors down.
Yeah, so there's no tissues or paper towels that are allowed to be in there, right? Or,
That's
well,
not true, but, I mean, we don't list it as an accepted item, but they are, it is an accepted material. If someone, you know, wipes up chicken juice on
So
the
the-
counter, they can throw it in.
so I guess we need to understand, so we can't just say, hey, we've got this great food scrap program. We need to have had a discussion about the public health component of that
Correct.
food scrap program.
Yes.
You
Okay.
can
And
hand
so
this
you've
back to
gotta
me, but you can read that,
research that.
though, what
Yeah.
has to be submitted in the 7.8.
Okay.
Okay.
It's online, but you want to look at it now and just hand it back. to
Yeah.
And
So
while we're
cutting
on,
to the chase to make it easy, does it make sense beforehand to construct an email to the public health representative and say, I'd like to sit and talk with you with our food scrap program as it relates to public health based on these 4 bullet points. Please let me know if there are any other bullet points that you feel we should cover, and whatever answer you get back, you've now got the documentation.
well, yeah, I guess if you could
Mm-hmm.
let us know if you think that's sufficient, if you need to follow up on that, that would be
Yeah.
helpful, and that's in your category. Carolyn to
Yeah, I'll take care
investigate
of
and
it.
manage.
It's
all-
definitely.
It's all on the
While we're on
website,
Carolyn,
okay.
I just want to point out item 7.7, which you didn't specifically write down, or maybe you did. You just, yeah.
Recycle.
So we are recycling at our recycling center, the food scraps, mattresses, paint, smoke detectors, light bulbs, batteries, a whole bunch of stuff that's not required to be recycled.
Yeah.
So we think there's a whole host of points available there.
Yes, create infrastructure to recycle non-mandatory items,
Yes.
for sure. I don't have written down what number, well, I think it depends, 10 to 40 points. So all those items you listed, I believe, are
Yeah, I
listed
had
on sustainable CT.
7.7.
Yeah,
so
plus
let
we
me
have our
see.
swap shop too, which is.
That would
it's
count.
A lot, it's a waste reduction.
And that might also count as a sustainability event too, I believe. I
Oh.
wrote that down.
It
Swap
probably
shop?
would.
No, that's open every
Well,
day.
since it's-
Yeah, ongoing.
They'd open Sundays if they could.
It says you'll receive 10 points for each non-mandated material
Yeah.
recycled up to
Oh,
40 points.
That's great.
So
you
up
could
to
get
40
points.
points.
for
So
that.
that's 40 points. So
Yeah.
between food scraps, which is how many points?
I think it was.
Food scraps, I believe is 10, yes, the food
And-
scrap program.
And the other, you are now in the position to deliver 50 points.
All right.
Quarter of
Which
the
is like a
application.
quarter of the way to
application.
certification, base
Right.
certification.
7.7 and 7.8, so we'll just
Yay.
get back to
So
Carol.
it's a matter of,
So just to be clear on this, the recycling of mattresses by itself is 10 points.
Yep,
yes,
The recycling of
Paint.
light bulbs by itself is 10 points.
correct.
So we don't even have to leave the building.
no, mattresses, paint, smoke detectors, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
nothing.
Batteries.
We have the,
Metal.
and now we already have, we have the trifold
Right.
and the brochure and the
Textiles.
map, and they all show it.
They all do it all,
Pictures.
right.
Great.
Right.
You could get receipts for.
We have a really
Yeah.
cool
You know,
dump.
I have the Excel
Right.
spreadsheet that shows
Transfer
the tonnage
Yeah.
that we.
And
So we don't,
Right.
so again,
Ah.
now, on the filling of the application, we want to be, again, I don't know if there's a template on this one, but again, you got to read that task item.
Yeah.
I would give them only what they require and no more, because you don't want to give them
Right.
20 pages if they need 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right,
So-
and they need to be able to find, again, on that page 5 that you
Right.
gave them, why you gave it to them.
Yep.
So what I'm basically hearing is that there are literally on those little pages here, you get, the links are on the website when you go to the action. 7.8, 7.7 and 7.8 would really, you would be the lead to submit the information.
Yes.
I'll do
It
that.
sounds like
Great.
you have two really smart people.
To ask questions of.
To
Yeah.
ask questions of on
Yeah,
7.7 and
of
7.8.
I'm gonna get
I've got
contact
one,
information.
I've got
Yeah,
7.1,
absolutely.
and you've got,
Yeah.
whatever it is, so we.
The trick for us is going to be actually getting one in each.
Yes, I was
chapter.
just gonna say that, we're great on points it seems so far, but we gotta keep
Spread.
in mind,
Yeah.
You
we
gotta
gotta
have
get at least
spread.
one
Gotta
between
hit
1
all
and
the
9.
right marks, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I can talk about 2.4.
Okay.
It talks about developing an open
Yes.
space plan.
Yes, tell me about that.
From researching into the different plans Darien has already developed, it seems you have some that discuss the open spaces that you have gotten
So,
in the last couple of years.
Let's look at page 47 on the Plan of Conservation and Development.
Yes, it's in there. I also found it in the master plan for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Oh, great.
And I found a link that is an inventory and compilation of CT open space acquisition plan, which talks about Darien as well.
What was that third one that you found, that you just read?
It was the inventory and compilation of CT open space acquisition plan.
So let me try an experiment. Are you willing on this one to say, here are 3 documents that show open space planning and go through the process of
I can look into
uploading
it.
and
Yeah, I'm not
describing?
sure, because the thing had asked for like
Yeah.
a complete inventory of all of these different types of lands in
Yeah.
the area.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if the report had laid out and specified each of these different subsections, which is something I think like a planner, like
Yeah.
a land use planner would probably have a much better knowledge of these different kinds.
And what are the subsections?
They include agricultural lands, conservation easements, open space property owned by, and then divided by local, state, and federal governments, water company owned open space, land trust owned or protected, unprotected or perceived open spaces.
And what's the look-back period on those?
They exist today.
Must include proof of update for documents completed up to 10 years prior.
Okay, so Darien Land Trust is gonna give us a mother load there.
Well, who is gonna call them and what mother lode are they gonna give us and what form is it gonna be in?
So, I think a lot of it's gonna be available right on the web, well, Beth Harmon.
Yeah. Okay, so who are we?
I'll be happy to call Beth.
Okay, and so before you call Beth, read the
Yeah,
task.
yeah. I'll send her the info and say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you about this.
Yes,
It's the 2.4.
yes.
It's the
Right.
one that's
Right,
2.4,
got it.
develop an open space plan.
Correct.
And it has what to do.
And there's a few different subsections for that
Right.
one, and like 2.4.3 talks about just prioritizing acquisition of lands, and I know the Darien town had purchased a piece of land to connect a greenway recently, and there's documentation for that of like the purchase orders, so that would count as like showing you guys prioritize linking different pieces of open space.
So can you
the
send
piece-
that back to us?
Yeah.
Can you
That's
give
the
us
piece.
the things that we should be submitting on?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, so it sounds like Terry
That's
also,
the piece between the police department and the cemetery?
I would assume yes. I just remember it
That's
saying
you,
it
right?
linked the town hall.
Wasn't that done for water flow purposes?
but, yeah, but here's what I worry about,
You
right?
saw the
Like,
Hecker?
Yeah.
Yeah,
if we,
I wasn't aware of why they bought it.
yeah, they bought it, there was a recommendation from the Flood Mitigation Strategy Committee to put that into open space instead of allowing additional development in a vulnerable floodplain. And it was open space.
what about leases, because the town entered a 99-year lease with Oxbridge.
Oh, I also
No, we
found
bought
that
the
one.
property.
Yeah, that was
That's
another
a
one that I
purchase?
That's a
found
purchase.
that
We
would
leased
also
back to
probably
them the right to
qualify
use
for
it in different ways over
Wait,
time.
Highland Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we town
Yeah,
purchased it.
I found
But
that.
it's
that was
not-
for that action.
It's not designated a town park.
Correct.
And it is not preserved as open space. It is a piece of town property. Theoretically, we could use it as a town dump at this point if we wanted to. Obviously,
Right,
that would
but-
never be approved.
But-
But, you know, I mean, it is a
but-
piece of town
Careful,
property.
Craig.
Yeah, I know, we're on channel seven, right?
Isn't there
Still,
something
it's still,
Isn't there something in place right now that designates which spaces will be maintained?
well, it's all gonna, it's, you know, 95% of it is gonna remain lawn, or 90+% of it's gonna remain lawn for now, with some meadow, walking trails. I mean, it's gonna be effectively used for active and passive recreation. I just wanted to be clear on the legality of it. It hasn't been put in a conservation easement. It hasn't.
It's not
it's
designated
not,
parkland.
Parkland.
Right.
It's a piece of town property.
And there are certain points that are legally protect municipally owned space.
Yes.
That's 10 points, but that is not
Yes.
complete an inventory
Yes.
and
So you have excess town
identify it.
space,
So
you can now
there's-
say it will never be anything but open space.
So there are
unless legally
pieces,
protected.
there are four subsets
So-
to this.
but again,
which
so-
means
so-
back to Terry, it's not the whole thing, it's
Hold on,
the
but,
points.
okay, so first, Terry volunteered to set up a Google Doc drive and invite everybody here, including our fellows,
Thank you.
to have access to it. So one thing that our fellows can do is, as they find these documents that they think are relevant to a specific item, can put it under that folder, subfolder. Intuitively named, maybe with a little note of why you put it there. So it helps us when we get to the application phase. But again, I'm going to refocus our efforts on, obviously, we need points in every category, so we might get down to the point where we need to do something in one of these categories, and that's important to keep track of. But if this task item is a heavy lift versus the documents that are easily accessible, it's going to take longer than 2 months to generate, right? So I want to be realistic
Craig,
about
the
that.
list that you have in front of you, are there any that we haven't spoken about? That was your original gut list where we had
Yeah,
points
so we
and
got
names.
CPACE, maybe we just took to 2.4. Yeah, the affordable housing, I had a good question about that one. So, affordable housing data.
What
This is
point?
8.2.
Yes.
8.1 and 8.2. So 8.1 is, again, kind of one of those easy ones. You download a document from the state, and you upload it and say, here's the document, but you have to have a meeting where you talk about the document. Did I
Right.
get that kind of right?
Correct.
Okay. But moving into the second one, which is actually increase the amount of affordable housing you have, the issue is we missed the clawback period by 1. So we,
1 day?
1 year, right? So maybe it was a 5-year clawback, but our real increase was between 2013 and 2014 when the Heights was finished. And that bumped up our affordable housing stock by enough to get us some points. So the question is, do we bother saying, hey, we know we didn't hit 5 years, but but if you look back 6 years, we did. Can we get half the points? Is it worth doing something like that?
I can ask the staff.
Yeah.
During our training, they said sometimes, if they're just there, they just are a little off of the deadline, we can look into it. A year might be a bit much for them, but I might as well ask.
Yeah.
Another part about 8.2 is that 8.2.1 is just identifying the percentage of affordable housing in Darien.
Which we have.
And if you have over 10%,
We don't.
okay, then you will not get those points. Sorry.
We know we don't. That's
It's
a
worse
Not
than that.
near.
much bigger story. Yeah, I think this is 2013, we had 2.62%.
Okay.
And, oh yeah, put it right here. In 2013, we had 2.62.
Okay.
Now we have 3.52. But the big increase came between 13 and 14.
Okay.
So let me give you 14 was 3.38%. So 2.62 to 3.38 is 0.38 plus 0.38 is over 0.75. So technically, that was a 0.75 increase, but we missed the clawback period by a year.
Okay. I'll look into that and get back to you then.
Yeah. And then we have, the other part of it is that there is now, there's affordable housing under construction at Town Hall Homes, which will increase our affordable housing stock. I don't know by how much. And there are 3 development projects, which all have affordable housing components to them, which will again increase. So there's stuff that's been approved and is either under construction or will be under construction. Are there any points there, or do we have to kind of wait for these things to be CO'd and see a reaction to this number?
I believe that they have
Yeah.
to be built
Yeah,
and
okay.
completed.
Okay.
But 8.3.1 is education of multifamily property owners. That's 10 points. Of course, there's more time that goes into everything than you might think, but education, that could be an option to get something in number 8. Or 8.3.2 is track multifamily buildings that have had their energy and water use benchmarked. I don't know if you guys have that kind of data.
Yeah, I don't think we do.
Okay, yeah.
Is that, would we have that at all for the heights?
No, because they're relatively new. They wouldn't be tracking them over time at this point, I don't think.
And they don't track them now?
Would Avon count? Avon,
Oh, Avalon.
Avalon, sorry.
I don't know who would be tracking that, because those are all individual meters, so that the overall owner doesn't really care.
But are they individual meters off one trunk?
No, they wouldn't be, not in that, I built projects like
Eversource, as
these.
we know, has some very odd ways. of-
Yeah, so I build a lot of projects, or I see a lot of projects get built. I understand how Eversource meters and sub-meters, and no.
Okay.
I mean, the pool house and stuff, and clubhouse would be on
Yeah.
a house meter, if you will, but not the units.
The 8.1, create, expand, maintain your community's housing data profiles. I mean, there should
Yeah, that's a
be
document,
some
I already have
points
it.
So that in order to actually have an item in 8, which without, we can't get certified.
So I have the 2018 housing data profile for Darien, but again, another critical point of the task item is actually having a meeting where you talk about it and what it means.
Correct.
And who would we need to be
Like,
talking to?
it's like someone, like the Board of Selectmen, like,
it's-
it's
The
like,
affordable housing?
I don't think it specifies who you need to have a
Oh,
meeting
okay.
with. I think it could just be like a public
8.1.
forum but I would double check on the
Yeah.
website. I don't have
with
any-
a process of community engagement and education, conduct that's the next one, create or expand, starting with that.
This is 8.1.1.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Analyze the data. Present the data profile at a regular meeting of your municipality's legislative body or other public meeting.
Would that not have been done at some Board of Selectmen meeting or RTM meeting?
I don't think anyone's ever talked about this document, in my knowledge. I mean, we could talk to Jamie to see, but I don't think so.
Do you think there's a good likelihood of,
That they could,
yeah,
we could ask,
because that might be
'Cause we need some
the
8
easiest opportunity for number 8, I
for
think.
points in number 8, yeah,
Mhm.
to try to complete 8.1.
Another point to remember as well, once we start talking to more towns in the region, you guys are allowed to host events together or like collaborate
Yeah.
on events.
Yeah.
So if you worked with a town that was close by on like a watershed education event, you guys would both get points and complete that action. So it allows for a lot of collaboration with these different categories. So you could work on them if they're a lot more specialized with like invasive species education. You could collaborate on one of their events and get points with them for it.
And it's not point distributed
Yeah.
based on how much you contributed. Everyone gets those points. There's no
Yeah, I think we're
changing.
still back to the things, considering that it's June, that we
Yeah.
have to be submitting what's happened, and you
Yeah.
provided us some ideas of
But
things that qualify that we didn't even know
the,
would qualify, that have all.
The exception to that rule, which I have been harping on, is we need at least some points in 8. And
Yes,
if that's the
8
only option, then we might have to
exactly.
do something
Then,
to get
or
it.
we could get the appropriate person at a Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yes.
And-
I'll email
and-
Jamie and say, we need points in category 8. This seems to be the easiest way to get them.
we be on your
Here's the
agenda?
housing data profile. No, I'm gonna say it even differently.
Okay.
Who do you think the
Who would
best person
present
in the
this?
town is to talk about this as a question and an
At a-
issue
at a
and
BOS
have a
meeting.
dialogue too? Like, we don't,
Where'd you get the document?
you can get it from the state. It actually says right here where you get, there was like a link literally on the task item to this
Yeah,
place
Yeah,
that
because
has
it's
that
with
document.
Partnership for Strong Communities, I think is.
Yeah, www.pschousing.org.
So literally, when you go into the action item on the website for set 8.1, it's
Yeah.
gonna tell you where to go to get the stuff.
Yep.
And also keep in mind number 9 for when you do new events that you might have to do this summer,
Mhm.
and try and incorporate that equity toolkit, because that's a necessary component of the
Yeah.
application.
I
She's
would
definitely
actually
on that,
like to
yeah.
bring that up. I know we're going to run out of time here.
Yeah.
And we went around and around on the idea of what inclusion was. Please, if, anytime, speak in. And we come
We're
back
gonna
to
do
the
a
idea
couple
of
things
could
more
we,
related to you. Hold on.
the social services
You got it.
department was interested, and there are a couple of things that we do that probably have a place in sustainable CT with the medical loaners and at home and Darien. There are a lot of things we do that may provide somewhere, some points, and that's for another conversation offline.
Mhm.
But for 9/1, we have to do something that we have to have done something this year or do something this summer that helps people that don't have access to something. So the things that come up are, one might be getting people to the farmer's market. That might be a thing, that if it's a sustainable event and there are underserved people, that might be something that we could arrange and have happen. Another thing that came up repeatedly was access to the swap shop for the people that are social services clients of the town of Darien that do not have access to the swap shop, who actually need access to recycling things that they could actually don't have the funds.
I believe that currently, folks that are approved for tax abatement based on income are permitted one free recycling center permit sticker, if that's the case.
Yes.
So that's one means. Now, these people might not have a car to put a sticker on.
Silly question, but trying to find ways to make things easy. People who do not have access, what about post 53 ambulance service?
Do not have access to what?
You can't drive yourself to the hospital.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were specifically
Volunteers.
talking about the swap shop.
Yeah, but I'm just saying for low-hanging fruit, if
That's
the
not-
voluntary ambulance service qualifies, that's gonna be the easiest.
No, you've got to take,
No.
you've got to take one of your sustainable things that you're doing
Oh, it's a
and say,
sustainable-
how
Gotcha,
is that being provided equitably?
gotcha.
And
To all
find-
citizens.
To all citizens. And then if you have a category of citizens that are unable to provide, are unable to participate equitably in that action, what do you do to address that?
So
Well,
if
there
the
were-
farmer's market counts as something, At Home in Darien provides transport for
Right.
seniors to go
Gallivant
back.
goes there every week.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I
So
think
that's
if
good to
we
know.
were thinking about things that are inclusionary, when you're thinking about the entire population of Darien and the ability to access the swap shop is one of them, because
Yeah.
who needs that more? then.
Yeah,
then
it would be
people
very helpful to
that are
folks
helpful.
that-
But then another thing was,
Now, did you have one other thing to add about this? I think you were just gonna say something just before we get off target.
We're doing it now.
Oh, okay.
We're doing,
So what are we doing?
we are providing stickers for individuals that are human service.
That human services say we
Supervisors
could use
says they
it?
qualify for.
Okay. And this was new?
About 3 hours ago.
Can you document that?
I finalized the documentation, I went over with Ally this morning, set aside the RDA stickers,
so
so.
we're gonna get off our horse. But anyway, another thing was beach stickers.
That probably will be
They
the
do that too.
9.1.
Okay, that's great.
There are
Thing.
free beach stickers for all the folks that
And the yeah,
qualify
okay.
through human services.
So that's
we
your
will
item.
talk-
So you'll
yes,
try
so
to
between Christine and
document
I and
this
Ally and Diane,
and
I
see
think
if
we
it
can
qualifies.
document
We can
that.
document
So
Thank
I'm gonna pause here for a quick
Check that box.
second. I'm gonna pause here for a quick second.
Candles?
They come in and
I'm gonna
sticker, they just have to hold it up with their driver.
I'm going to pull off of the sustainable CT item portion of our agenda, just so we can touch base quickly on a few recycling things, which I think are predominantly updates. Food scrap recycling, we have a bunch more totes and kits.
Well, the
And-
totes we all
yeah.
have always had. The question was whether they were all out at, the question was the management of the totes. There were always enough totes available.
Yeah, no, so,
Yeah.
yeah, but just for us,
yeah,
we
instead of
know,
having
we
to
ordered
go out-
another batch.
We did.
Oh, I'm sorry,
No, no,
we're talking about
kits,
different totes.
Kits.
Yes, they're all
We-
in, yes.
We ordered another batch of kits, so we want to sell
What's a batch?
200
Yeah.
plus or minus.
And we have already started selling
Yeah.
from that batch of 200.
So we want to, basically, we're going to try to sell another 200 kits,
But
and
when are we
that's
gonna start
our
selling
goal.
them here again?
As
They're
soon as
all-
Ed's ready.
I thought
And they are
we were
doing it
holding off till the dumpster
occasionally.
gets
She's been selling them if it's not too
Yeah,
busy.
if it doesn't get crazy.
Yeah.
If that happens
What we
once in a
need to
while.
figure out is how to sell bags outside of this environment, because that is a problem we've heard about a lot.
Yeah, okay, so I want to, I just want to
We
keep
can
this
table that.
section super
Okay.
simple
Okay.
on updates or needed decisions, because we're already over an hour.
Yeah, so we're
Um,
flush with new kids.
We're flush with new kits. We want to sell. We had a great compost giveaway Saturday. It is still ongoing technically,
Yeah, we think we'll run it again this Saturday, Ed, right?
if it's still around.
Signs
Yeah.
up.
If it's
left,
nice.
yeah. Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
One thing that we did notice, because we were asking, Carolyn was asking everybody coming to dump their food scraps, how the program was going. And I think the primary, well, most people were very happy. We're very happy to have the service. The primary complaint was all of these compostable bags are not waterproof, and so they can make your container gooey. And everybody wanted the ability to get rid of that gooiness before returning home. So this goes back to the idea of being able to provide a hose bib at that location, which is actually, I think, fairly convenient, because that's where the water goes into the building, and there's a hose bib inside the building there, or a spigot inside the building there. Not that I was looking.
Yeah, you're snooping around a little bit.
Yeah, but Craig, I mean,
Helps
it
have an
sounds to
engineer
me
with-
like you're trading a small problem for a potentially large problem.
Maybe. We could also test it out and
So-
see how it
Yeah, but that's
goes.
something
So
we talked
lining
about
these bins
starting the
with
program.
newspaper avoids that problem.
Yes.
Yeah, I told
And-
everyone that. Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
who mentioned that as a problem, I gave them
I
some
like that.
strategies to try to mitigate it, either using, paper toweling in the bottom, a brown paper bag, or a piece of black and white newspaper, and then when you dump it, nothing sticks, it just kind of, and it also, it absorbs some of the moisture.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
also,
You don't need to.
I want to advocate for this idea, but I'll also point out our surprise at the things that users of the recycling center will walk away with in their cars.
Oh, yeah. Ugh,
So all of the bungee cords that used to be on the totes
are no longer there.
are no longer there.
They belong,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, my.
Apparently, City Carding was telling us that the empty
Garbage can.
garbage can that they leave over by the recycling for the plastic bags disappear every once in a while.
Last weekend, not this past weekend, the weekend before, so now they have one that they had to bolt it down. The yellow container that we collect the
Smoke detectors.
smoke detectors in is now bolted down because someone tried to walk off with
Very
it.
good camera.
Yeah.
Um,
Unbelievable.
Mercury.
I can only imagine what would happen to a hose in a, in a hose
Well.
channel. But,
I think we need to put.
are you open-minded to run it as a trial period?
What's that?
Put a hose bib out there and see
For
what
the
happens
summer,
1 week?
Yeah, for like a month, and see
The,
what
the issue I have is what do I do with the waste?
Yeah.
And as you know, I'm required to collect it. So I gotta take a look at where we could,
So-
As a member, if you're gonna put it to vote, I would strongly vote against that. I think you're just opening up you got 5 people complaining, you're gonna have 500 complaining with a more legitimate complaint. Now you got gooey, sticky mess going across the driveway, smelling. He's got the problem of disposal and reporting. I don't think we wanna go there at all. I think if you wanna do something, educate the people about what they should be smart enough to figure out on their own. Put a newspaper at the bottom.
Always delivered with a drop of cynicism.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you really, sometimes
I'm like a
reality
more and
does
more right
trump.
now.
Yeah, but when we
We'll-
first
we'll
started
take
the program, we went to Scarsdale to look at their facility. They have a drain and a hose right there, and that was part of what enticed us to want to go forward with this project, because it's,
Because they
It
figured it
allows-
out and it worked well.
they figured it out and it worked really well, and it would really help people, especially just during the summer, because it does smell. You know?
Well,
You said you were gonna, you said you were gonna take a
You're inviting a
look.
much larger
So,
headache.
we're gonna stop. Ed's gonna take a look. We'll talk about it. in a
Thank you,
while.
Ed.
And Terry's a definite no on the vote. Just so-
What's in, what's out? We have new brochures, new flyers, new comprehensive lists. They're all on the website. 2 out of 3 of those things that I just mentioned are being passed out at DPW now with the new permits.
They look very
Yeah,
good.
they do. Thanks, Ed.
So please feel free to circulate these items widely and use them for yourselves to be educated on what is now unfortunately an ever-changing set of rules.
Right. Which we can now update pretty frequently as
Ourselves.
needed, yeah.
Did we end up, did you call the new textile company? Is that when we report on
I
that
called
one?
the old one, and then we actually caught the guys out there when they were emptying it. And I'm getting some difference in reporting of what they take and what they don't take. So I'm gonna have to do just a little bit more research before we switch over.
Okay.
I do feel that we should have the ability, for the small amount of money that we do take in, the ability to recycle more, if it doesn't
they're
generate as
recycling
much.
it.
Yeah, but, if it doesn't generate as much revenue as we think, it's
mean,
less out of our MSW.
My cynical worry, not that I'm pointing to you, Terry, is that as our current provider has grown larger and they've had more material to manage, they've recognized profitability in some, and that it might be even easy to dispose other stuff. So we want to make sure that what we are putting in that bin, they are legitimately trying to recycle, not just saying, oh, go ahead and put it in there, we'll deal with it.
not to mention, they let the thing overflow. They don't empty it enough.
That's something we have to manage better, that's all. But knowing that the stuff is going where it's supposed to be going, and the difference between, it's double, they pay us double on what we're supposed to be recycling, so I have to, if I'm gonna take a hit on reducing that revenue, then I have to be able to justify it by the rest of the stuff that they're gonna put in there.
Yeah.
Is going to go.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think we all feel, whatever we can put in there, we have been putting in
We
there.
want to divert as
They
much
can't
weight
cut
as
down the
possible.
list. They
Yep.
can't be cutting down the list, they're not letting us know those things, so.
Yep, exactly.
Gentlemen
Just
from
as
the
a
field
consumer,
didn't-
it's confusing. I don't know whether to put stuff in there or not right now.
Yeah, it used to be.
And they're often
yeah.
full.
Yeah, it used to be kind of all used textiles, but now
So I
they're-
don't know how anybody
they're
found out they
saying
don't
only
take
usable
things
textiles.
anymore, so.
I called them.
Yeah.
We're talking about Use Again?
Yes.
I called them and asked them because it used to say on their website usable
Yeah,
or unusable
that's where this all started.
materials. Exactly.
And now it says
So then
usable.
I was looking at their website one day and it only said usable. So I thought, did they change or whatever? Anyway, I called them. I've called them twice and I've spoken to 2 different people and they both say they only want usable materials.
Yeah, so I think they're,
So what stops us from putting it in the bin? Because there's nothing out there that knows
well,
us. The guys.
but if they're only recycling usable, if
And
we
they're throwing the
put
rest away.
unusable in, they're throwing it away.
And that bothers you folks.
Yeah.
It would be better if it was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
recycled
yeah.
into rags.
Well, it's like saying, well,
But stop,
this is a can
stop
of
looking
worms.
at it from our standpoint, look at it from the public standpoint. My wife, who's not part of this commission, she hits me with a question of, okay, well, if it's no longer usable, I've got a blouse with an oil stain on it. Is that usable or not? So, you know, at the
Yeah,
at the
usable for what?
layman's level, it becomes so complicated that I think a lot of people are just throwing their hands up and saying,
Well, look, I think
and that's
that.
what we have to be careful of.
Yeah, this is, I think, to use an appropriate phrase, an inconvenient truth of the recycling industry, that I think we do want to work with providers that are doing what they say they are doing and believe in the mission of recycling and reuse. We don't, I would say, want to work with providers that might give you the best return, but are only focused on the profitable portion of those recyclables.
Okay.
And I don't know which companies, if you were looking at an alternative one, but I know of a system in Massachusetts where they say usable and unusable, and they
Well,
explain.
no, so we're kind of rehashing stuff we've done over the last 3 months. We discovered that they changed. Cliff did research and said, I found another company that I would recommend that will still take it, and then that went to Ed for consideration.
Correct, and that's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
point, is there are places
Yes.
that will use the unusable.
Yes, and that's where we're at right now.
And then
Yeah.
And Ed has to
people
make a
don't have to
decision.
sit there and figure out if something's usable or unusable, because it can all go in.
But he's getting $200 a ton right now.
Right.
If he has to switch to a
So-
company where he's only getting $100 a ton,
Sure.
he wants to know he's doing it for good reason.
Exactly.
So
Well,
that's
it's
what-
gonna be keeping stuff out of the MSW, hopefully.
Well, it does the same thing now. The guys that were emptying the bins were like, there's no, we just take, if you put it in there, we take it. off-site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question that I asked you and you just answered was, you'd like to make sure that when it's taken off-site, that it is being reused.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we first signed up with them, they said, doesn't matter what it is. You know,
Right.
we have a source for industrial rags, we have a
exactly.
source for insulation. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they were
That's
gonna,
insulation.
you know, they were
Yeah.
gonna really come down to, you know, but it sounds like they were, I don't know, they changed.
So it's not going in a landfill somewhere.
And we can't, when we put, you know, on social media and so forth, we can't say usable and unusable anymore, we just say usable.
Now, so we are not completely naive with our thinking, right?
Mhm.
Currently, I can't guarantee that City Carting is recycling all of our single stream.
Right.
Because the market has collapsed, and they may be disposing of some of it. I can't sit here and say that
Glass.
all of our e-waste ends up, you know, they're not just focused on, you know, getting the
But we
most
do
valuable
due
rare earth metals
diligence.
out of it and throw the rest away, right? Like, so we can't be naive about, we've put it in a box and now magical things are happening with it, right? That's just not the reality of the other end.
I have to go.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
Is there any other questions before I walk out?
Police station energy efficiency?
We got the report back and reviewed it last week with the chief. We're looking at implementing some of the changes now and putting in a new management system. So there won't be any energy efficient moves for at least another 3 months. The other one was the sign for the
Thank
stop
you.
shop.
Yes,
Ordered it and sent it on its way down.
sign on its way.
Sorry, folks.
Thank you.
Thank
No,
you,
no,
Ed.
Ed,
Nice
thanks for
meeting you.
All right, so it is now 1:45. We're an hour and 15 minutes in. I need to go back to work. But I don't necessarily need to stop the meeting if a quorum wants to remain and continue looking at these lists. But it seems obvious that if we're going to cobble together a passable application in less than 2 months, that there need to be weekly meetings of these things, you know, to try to move forward. So what are people thinking about
Yeah, like-
doing more now, setting up another meeting soon?
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's fine.
Yes,
Both?
yes.
Both.
Okay,
Or,
so I'm,
yeah, meetings.
okay,
More meetings.
more meetings. So unfortunately, when we have 4, we have a quorum.
Yeah.
Right.
So it has to be noticed.
So that everything has to be on the up and up FOIA-wise.
In minutes.
And that sort of thing. So ideally, I would say subcommittees are meeting more frequently with 3 members or less. So what do we think we want to do at this point? Who would like to?
I think I just heard you suggest we make a motion that we appoint a subcommittee for sustainable CT initiatives. I think that's what I just heard.
I think, was that a motion?
I'd make that motion.
Say sustainable CT application.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then,
I will second
calling
that
people and saying, hey, how are you? Carolyn, you said you were going to do 7.7. How you doing?
So that's the thing, the people
Yeah.
on the subcommittee have to vary depending on what's being discussed,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Or just, I think we do need 3 people to be working with our fellows on a consistent basis. And then where you need to reach out to the other people on this committee or other people to get things done, you're doing it.
Should you have more than one subcommittee? Break this into chunks and have a chunk for each little subcommittee?
It might be-
Well-
I would think not, because you may not have the same people available at.
What we have tried to do with each task item is identify a responsible leader to say, I'm going to do what's necessary on 6.5 to get that done.
My
that
understanding of the way subcommittees work based on another commission we sit on.
Yeah.
The subcommittee is that we still are required to take minutes of the subcommittee meeting.
And report back to the-
Yes, while we do not need a quorum within the subcommittee
Mm.
at any meeting,
Yep.
if 2 people meet, it's a meeting.
Yeah.
It's not a quorum requirement, but the report must come back to this committee for,
Okay. But that could be, it doesn't have to be as detailed as your reports of the full meeting. It could be
Right. we met.
A, B, and C met.
Exactly.
And we talked about
Right.
this.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So who wants to volunteer to meet on a more frequent basis to try to push our efforts on populating an application? Kathy's number 1. Cliff's number 2.
What are you?
Christine's
talking
number
about-
3.
What are you talking about in terms of when?
That's up to the folks on the subcommittee.
Well, that's.
And they can keep us all informed and we can show
For a time
up.
Nobody can be there for it.
Yeah. Well, we have 3 so far, and so.
Are Wednesdays at 12:30 essentially good for most people, or is it only the second Wednesday of the month that's good for people?
Wednesdays at 12:30 is good for me.
Generally, yeah, I have to get my daughter at
Next couple
12:30, I
months,
can come a
yeah.
little later.
Okay, Cliff's good.
So you want to make it 1
I
o'clock
can be
on
here by
Wednesdays?
12:45, I mean, that's fine.
Wednesdays.
12:45 on Wednesdays? And will we be able to get space at Town Hall, or are we going to meet someplace else?
I think we would just find a place here, and if it has to change, we would change.
So we're talking about Wednesdays at 12:45
For 1 hour
or less.
or less. We can begin on,
Cliff, are you officially on this committee now?
Well, that's a good question.
You are an honorary, you are hereby considered an honorary member.
honorary member, and anybody can work on
Anybody
sustainable
can work on
CT
a subcommittee.
application.
Yes,
It doesn't have
an
to be-
honorary non-voting member.
Anybody can work on getting this application done. All right, I'm going to suggest we meet on the 19th, and we'll submit, I will send a reminder and then a note after to the whole committee. In the meantime, I think, just to make sure everybody has everybody's emails, I will send the fellows' names and emails to everybody, and will you just give me yours so that I get you correct? So that everybody has everybody's names?
Yes, that's great.
Terry, you will get back to us
On the Google Doc.
How's that?
We'll get that set up by tomorrow.
So just to show you, I mean, you're perfectly intuitive and able to do this. What I did in the OneDrive is I literally just have this folder is 1.1 brownfields, this folder is 1.6 CPACE, 2.4, and it's just, so you can see it on one page, you can see 20 different tasks, which
So
folder
when
to
you get
go.
invited,
I can just dump that stuff up.
I'd love to, but I'm not.
Yep.
In fact, that's what I had to tell Ken.
Copy and paste, it's a beautiful
Yep.
thing.
It is.
Yep.
To be here.
Does anyone want to continue chairing this meeting and have it continue past 1:45?
Sorry, how do you,
Um,
is it
If at that point, we can put you on a phone call, or if there is a particular day that one or both of you can travel, if we're going to work over the next month. I know you have a lot of commitments, but we'll keep you in the loop. And
Great.
you're always welcome, either by phone or by Google
And you're
Drive or
I am
Google
Or in
Docs
person.
or
Yeah,
in
of course.
person.
We don't have any like
This is what you
conflict
do.
commitments
This
on
is your
Wednesday.
job.
Yeah, we're here for you, so if
right.
not by phone call, we can always come.
So we'll
It's
Try to
either
make
like
some-
small things that we may have a conflict with, so otherwise that should work.
stay in touch with everybody and
And the other thing we can do on this contact email chain, if it's just the folks here, is use that as, it's annoying to get a lot of emails, but use that as kind of our crowdsource, so like, hey,
Oh,
look
that's
at
a good
it,
idea.
just
yeah,
kind of.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows how to reach the fellows. I think you
Yep.
could get it off the website, because I found your names and
It'd be a lot
bios and
easier
things,
if
but
you
it
just
would
give me
be,
your, I need them for the. minutes
okay, you may
anyway.
want to
Email?
take it.
So,
Yeah, why don't you give me
uh,
that?
back to my,
Give the secretary
before
that today.
considering a
Sure.
motion for adjournment, does anybody want to continue as chairman in my absence, or are we done with the meeting for
I think we're
today?
done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so is that a motion to
Thank
adjourn,
you.
Carolyn? And
Yeah,
a second
motion
by
to adjourn.
Christine, and all those in favor?
All right.
We are